Hi, this is VR Tapscott. Welcome to another episode of Recycled Drivel, where not only do I take stuff I wrote a couple of years ago and talk about it, I'm also slowly converting it to video. I consider this pretty much the ultimate upcycle. All rights reserved, copyright 2025 by VR Tapscott. Podcast number 19, A Long Trip to a Small Angry Coincidence. Written July 2nd, 2022. I was reading a book by Lawrence Schoen, the Conroy verse, which is great, and came across some interesting data regarding the unlikelihood of you ever having been born. Now, all these factors came together that gave you some infinitesimal chance of existing. Now, I guess that's true if you look at it from the back end. However, stories are written about interesting people. There's not much enthralling action in a story about John and his wife, who never did anywhere and died in the same small town they were both born in. Of course, that means there's a necessity to pick out a person who did interesting things, or a boring person who end up lifting themselves out of the muck of everyday life and becoming interesting. In the end, yes, we could look and marvel at the thought that it was essentially impossible for them to exist, but they did. On the other hand, maybe it's closer to the truth that you have to be born, since these events are happening and need a fuse, an ignition point, a spark, if you will. The universe constructs the correct person to be in the correct place and move the story along. Now, I know that people might read a book and say, oh, that's so unbelievable. That would never happen in real life. And maybe they're right. However, a book is more or less written backwards, so the unbelievable events that happen by the end of the book have a logical reason for it, a base to live on while the story is being constructed, so to speak. And in the interest of full disclosure, I admit that most of my books are written with only a very vague idea of the end. Stuff happens, things get broke, lives get shattered, they put the priceless Ming vase back together again, and then the end comes. If I've done my job right, the end more or less fits the middle and the beginning. Oh, happy day, I've done it again. And yes, real life isn't like that. Or is it? In 1998, I met my wife at a Yahoo chat room. We interacted for a few minutes and she left, but she gave me her email address. She lived 800 miles away from me, so there was no real point in pursuing this. But we exchanged emails a bit. A couple of weeks later, she's got her high school reunion. A girls' trip after was planned, and it was taking her within 50 miles of where I was going to be for that weekend. I picked her up from her friends, drove her the remaining 100 miles to their rendezvous, and we got to know each other in person on the way. Still, 800 miles, no point in the long run. A month later, I attended a conference in San Diego, courtesy of Compaq Computer Company. I got bumped at the airport, and it screwed over my travel plans enough that they gave me 2 free flight vouchers. Nice. Finished in San Diego, I realized I could stop over in San Francisco if the girl was interested. She was interested. And we spent a couple days together. I flew home. I missed her. 800 miles was still too far away. But now I have 2 free flight vouchers. That resulted in 2 very nice trips to San Francisco, still 800 miles away. She flew to see me the next time, the last time, to say goodbye, because 800 miles. But while she was with me, we had such a great time, she basically dumped her life there and came 800 miles to live with me. We've now been married for over 23 years and just passed the anniversary of when we met on Yahoo. And if you look at each of the coincidences along the way, it's basically impossible that we'd ever have met or had any chance at all of finding out we liked each other enough to spend the rest of our lives bothering each other. So, it was essentially impossible. Did the universe bend its rules of probability to pull us together for its own nefarious purposes? Or was it just pure coincidence? I wonder.